This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Narain Arul Raja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast, your trusted source for insights, strategies, and expert advice to elevate your dental practice and career. I'm Michael Walker, your co-host, and I'm thrilled to bring you another value-packed episode with an industry expert. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Dayna Johnson, who brings invaluable insights on achieving work-life balance as dental professionals while building a practice that thrives beyond insurance dependence. On this podcast, our goal is to equip dental professionals with the tools and knowledge to take control of their practices and careers. Whether it's enhancing patient communication, optimizing a fee-for-service model, or creating a better work-life balance, we're here to help you navigate the journey beyond insurance dependence. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share an exciting opportunity brought to you by Equa Marketing, the sponsor of this podcast. Equa is offering a free marketing strategy meeting, which is valued at over $900. And when you book this meeting, Equa will provide expert recommendations to attract high-quality new patients to your practice, rank number one on Google within your local community, consistently increase the number of new patient calls month after month. This is an incredible opportunity for your practice's growth. So don't miss out. Book your free meeting today at your convenience. You can go ahead and visit Less Insurance Dependence, that's all one word, lessinsurancedependence.com/marketing-strategy-meeting to get started. Now, you'll also find that link where you picked up this podcast as well. So now on to today's episode. As I say, I'm excited to welcome Dayna Johnson, a leading expert in dental practice management, systems optimization, and software efficiency. With over 30 years of experience in the dental industry, Dayna has helped countless practices streamline their operations, maximize productivity, and create a stress-free, profitable businesses. As the founder of NovaMe, the premier Dentrix community, Dayna specializes in helping dental teams unlock the full potential of their practice management software. She is passionate about empowering dental professionals to take control of their systems so they can focus on delivering exceptional patient care while minimizing administrative burdens. Dayna believes that optimizing systems and software is a key factor in reducing insurance dependence, allowing dental practices to improve efficiency, increase profitability, and transition into a more patient-centered fee-for-service model. Today's episode will be discussing optimizing systems and software for a profitable practice. And Dayna is going to walk us through how dental practices can streamline operations, work smarter, not harder, why reducing insurance reliance starts with improving practice management systems, the biggest inefficiencies dental teams face and how to fix them, how practice owners can leverage technology to improve financial outcomes and patient experiences. Dayna, it is great to have you here, and let's start with your journey. I'm just curious, what inspired you to focus on helping dental practices optimize their systems and software?
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate being on with you today. I mean, I kind of fell into it really. I kind of fell into dentistry, and I started working in my first dental practice in like 92. And I really, really loved working in the dental practice. It was working with patients, and I'm kind of a business girl. I love technology. I'm kind of a techie. And so I went to work for my second dental practice in 94. And I already had kind of a tech background because I used to build computers and I used to like install networks into dental practices. And so I had the tech background. So when I went to work for my second dental practice, they were using like really archaic software, like, I don't know if you remember the DOS based software. And so as soon as I started working for the practice, I was trying to convince my doctor to upgrade the computers and the software like right away. But he was not having any part of it. And it took me several years until actually about 2003 to get him to say yes as to, okay, we need to upgrade our software. And so in 2003, when I demoed, different softwares, we landed on Dentrix. And, so when I installed Dentrix into my own practice in 2003, um, I did not have a good experience. I almost sent Dentrix back because I was so discouraged. I was frustrated. I didn't love it. And but I knew that if I was going to love this software and really use it to its full potential, I needed to learn everything about it. And so I dove into the 1,200-page manual with my sticky notes and post-its and highlighters. And in 2005, Dentrix was looking for certified Dentrix trainers in the state of Washington, where I'm originally from. And so in 2005, I became a certified Dentrix trainer, not really thinking I was going to go out and train offices. I really just wanted to learn more about the software. Uh, but they threw me out to the wolves in 2006. I started going out and training because they actually needed people to train. And so I started training offices one-on-one in 2006. And I loved training. Like I fell in love with helping offices optimize their systems and software. And that's when I really knew at that moment that this is what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And because offices were struggling and they needed help and they were asking for more help from me. And I knew that that was my calling at that point.
That's as you share that, I think of here's you that have built computers, like you've been in this, and you get this software arriving at your door, and you're frustrated by it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like most of us, what did we do if we'd been in the same boat? We sent it back, or we tried to wrestle through, or what I remember hearing, well, you just go ahead and take care of it. Let me know if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
I mean,
and
I felt like I was on my own. I felt like
yeah,
I was on an island all by myself trying to survive. And I did survive, thank goodness. But what I learned was if I struggled with it with a tech background, what were offices doing? They
exactly.
must really be struggling. And so that's when I knew at that point that this was something that I wanted to do. I needed to help offices optimize their systems and software and help them love their software, because your entire day revolves around your practice management software. You're in it all day long. And if you're going to have a joyful day and be able to run a practice, a profitable practice, a thriving practice that you want, you have to be able to use the software to its full potential.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've really moved into an era where, you can't being a generalist will not serve you well.
No.
You need to take 80% of what you do and focus on the 20% of what you're great at, which is what I hear you've done for yourself. But I think that's true in practices, whether it's marketing, whether it's systems, whether it's even HR, all the elements. There's things that, what are you great at? And then what do you need to surround yourself with to be the best in your class, so to speak. So
Agreed.
let's go
Yeah.
ahead and let's jump into let's get into some of the meat here of this conversation.
Agreed.
So certainly many dental practices struggle with inefficiencies in their daily operations. We're kind of alluding to that right now. How can optimizing systems and software help practices work smarter, not harder? I love that saying.
I love that saying too. It's interesting when I go into practices and, I love to go work side by side with practices, like get into their environment and sit with side by side with them. And whenever I go into an office or I'm doing like a practice assessment, what I find is a lot of offices, some of their systems involve manual systems or paper systems. Or I remember going into an office in Alaska, and they had like color-coded Post-it notes all over the cabinets on the back of the front desk. There were color-coded Post-it notes everywhere. And I'm like, like, tell me what that's all about. Tell me what all those Post-it notes are. And they're like, oh, well, those are all the patients that want to come in sooner. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like your ASAP list. And, and then I go into another office and they have like a 3-ring binder for patients that are unscheduled, or they have this big whiteboard in the back of in the clinical room to track all their lab cases. And so when I think of working smarter, not harder, I think of anything that you are doing manually that you're writing down on a piece of paper. All of those systems can be done in the software that will increase your productivity, reduce your stress, make life more efficient. And when life is more efficient, then you have more time to spend on patient care. You have more time to review treatment and create a better treatment plan estimate. I mean, one thing we have to remember is that computers know how to do math. So if there's no reason why we need to create a paper or a manual treatment plan estimate when we can generate one out of the computer.
You remind me, I was an intern in an accounting firm, and we were responsible for tracking the hotel occupancy rates and average room rates for a city of Toronto, as a matter of fact. And the low guy on the pole got that job, and I was the guy, and I did that on pads of paper, columnar. Like we added those numbers up, and on the printer. I mean, it got a couple of years behind me, but I had and all of a sudden we had VisiCalc, I think was the first one. We had this software that was which is Excel, the first version of Excel, and everything could be done automatically.
Yeah.
Well, I was excited because I could immediately just in that with that particular application, I could reduce my work by like 70%.
For sure.
But the partners so struggled with the idea, well, that we need paper, and there's nothing. It wasn't that the problem wasn't that they weren't forward thinking. It's just that we get so entrenched. Change is something we sometimes struggle to embrace. And I think a system helps you transition through change in ways that it's not as painful, and it's actually something you can look forward to and see the benefit really quick, as you were pointing out, Dayna, on the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Absolutely. I think change is hard. And because a lot of our team members are stuck in well, that's how we've always done it. Or, that's how I was taught from the outgoing team member. That's how she taught me. And, so we just have to understand what's the why behind the change, because you don't want to change just change because of change. We want to change because there's a really good reason why we're doing that. And that's that you really have to start with the why. Why are we doing that? Well, we're going to save time. It's going to be more efficient. We're going to be more productive, and we're going to be able to spend more time with patient care.
Excellent. Yeah, that's totally agree with that. The way I look at change is it's never been a thing, a noun. It's always been a verb. It's always has had potential to improve unless we have a fear of it, and then it tends to block everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of fear of change because change fails so often because of poor communication, and systems to support it. So let's jump in to talk a bit about insurance dependence. So we know that insurance dependence often creates administrative headaches. Like that's the understatement probably of the year. What role does practice management software play in streamlining processes for a more efficient, patient-focused practice?
Yeah, I think whether you are a fully embraced PPO practice, or if you are fully fee-for-service practice, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. But I think the most important thing is wherever you are in your practice, we have to make sure that the system, the software, is set up according to your contractual obligations to the insurance plan. or the employer, however that might be. Because your practice management software, like I said earlier, it knows how to do math. So we want to be able to set up our software in order to help our patients optimize their benefits as much as possible. Because what we want patients to do is use their benefits, and we have to be their advocate for that. Most patients don't know what their plan covers, what their plan pays. And sometimes we don't either, but we try and estimate for them as best we can. And the software can help us do that. There are a lot of insurance eligibility verification systems out there that can do it automatically and relieve us from getting on the phone for hours on end with insurance companies. There are ways that we can update the system, the coverage tables and things automatically, which will reduce some of our manual systems. And so we really need to embrace those automations. And sometimes, yes, we do need to check on the benefits. If we are out of network, so we're not dependent on insurance for our practice, we still have to help our patients understand their benefits. We don't have the privilege of just saying, well, that's your problem. We can't say that, because if you're out of network, if you are not insurance dependent, then all the more reason to help our patients maximize their benefits and be an advocate for them. Because if you're out of network, patients will expect more from you. They expect better customer service. They expect more value-added services if you are out of network. So if patients have to pay more out of pocket, then they are going to expect more out of you. And I think helping our patients understand, you know, what their benefits cover and what they don't cover, I think is a value-added benefit that we can give our patients. And so the more we have our software set up correctly and properly, the better that we can help our patients with that.
Yeah, I kind of think of well, that's really well put, Dana. I think it's, we think about if we have a vision as a practice, if we have a vision that's about, let's say, I'll go way out there and say unexpectedly delighting our patients, then how could your system help facilitate that?
Yeah.
And specifically, how could it facilitate that, who's the customer? Is it the insurance company or the patient? And putting that focus on the customer, creating that value-added experience. It's suddenly, and it's not just simply caring about your patients. Your patients are the greatest opportunity for qualified referrals that you have, and new patients and additional services and all those things. I think sometimes, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but sometimes the system gets driving the bus, and it was, the bus driver kind of gets put in the back seat. I mean, there has to be a balance in it. There has to be some relational common sense in actually, and I think that's obviously what you do is be able to come in and execute something that the system's working for you. You're not working for the system, if you will.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, when you're out of network, so you're not in insurance dependence, you're out of network, but patients are still going to receive benefits from their plan, then, it's up to us to at least let the patients know, okay, this is our fee. This is what we will collect from you on the day of service. And this is what we're going to hopefully fight for you. This is what your insurance is going to hopefully pay you directly. If you're not even in assignment and the patients are being paid by the insurance company, at least we should be able to at least help our patients say, we are going to submit the claim for you. We're going to fight for you. And hopefully your insurance company is going to reimburse you for about this amount. So, depending on how you want your treatment estimates to look to the patient, your software can do all of that for you, so that you can set up a templated type of estimate, so that if your hygienist is printing out the estimates for the patient or your dental assistants are doing that, we can at least make the estimates look the way we want them to look. So you're not handwriting anything. And that way you can save a copy of the estimate into the document center so you have it for future reference. And the other thing about insurance and setup in the software is, making sure that the team can see maybe what those benefits are and things like that. So, even though we're not in insurance dependence, we still want to have some knowledge of the patient's benefits so that we can help advocate for them, and we can help them to at least give them a little bit of idea of what they might be reimbursed for.
That's, yeah, I think that word advocate's really important. I mean, that's just, Google reviews are a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part of that marketing strategy meeting I was talking about that gets into that. But
Yeah.
because, imagine if you do what you're talking about, you take that extra mile, you become the advocate for your patients. How many reviews are you gonna have to say, I can't believe it, but these guys just always go the extra mile for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is so powerful today in the realm of customer development and retention for that matter.
For sure.
So let's,
Just,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead,
I
Dayna.
was
Yeah.
just going to say, just being open, honest, and transparent. You really want to be open with your patients and transparent about what your fees are. And, because a lot of times we try and estimate too close, or we try and be perfect, and we can't do that. We have to let patients know this is what the most out of pocket you will have, and we're going to fight for you for your benefits. But what we can tell you is the most out of pocket you'll have is $1,500. So I think it's just important that it really feel good about our fees, that we don't hesitate about our fees. We're proud of our fees, and we're open, honest, and transparent with our patients. If you do all of that, then you will patients could never give you a bad review because you haven't deceived them in any way.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a good choice in today's world.
No.
I love that. Yeah. And I think that's this whole idea of the word that I'm really keen on these days is intentional. Just being intentional with doing something different to get a different outcome. But what, to your point, the why, there's either you're looking at the why, what the vision is for what you're doing, or the pain point that you're trying to resolve. And both systems will serve both of those. Just one comes from more from a relational perspective of who you are and why you matter. The other comes from what you do and how you do it. So
Mhm.
let's go and talk about inefficiencies. So we certainly there's certainly lots of system inefficiency. I know you can go in a lot of different directions on this, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
what are some of the most common system inefficiencies you've seen in dental offices, and how can practices start addressing them? And before you answer, Dave, I just want to our listeners, this is where, like Dana's sharing some very specific things that you can start to look at, to think about. And the challenge in at a podcast like this is there's a lot of stuff. It's like a bit like a fire hose. But I encourage you just to capture a couple of sound bites, something that you can take and you can say, I could start with that and do something different when I get off this podcast. Because that's the only way it's going to happen. I'll review the whole thing. I'll watch it again. What's the likelihood of that happening? So I just really encourage you to capture something Dana's sharing that you can take away and you could be intentional with, and actually doing something when you get off this practice and move something forward to change the system to get a different result. So the question again, Dale, I'll just throw it back up since I threw that in at you. What are some of the most common system inefficiencies you see in dental offices, and how can practices start addressing them?
So I'm going to go back to, something I said earlier is probably the biggest inefficiencies that I see is manual and paper systems. So let me give you several examples. This doesn't have to do with insurance dependency, but it has to do with efficiencies, is, following up with patients that are unscheduled, or following up with patients that want to come in sooner. The biggest inefficiencies I see is offices have patient names written down in a spiral notebook, or they have them on sticky notes all over their desk. Or they're using a Google sheet or a Google spreadsheet, for patients that are unscheduled. that is one of the biggest inefficiencies that I see is doing that. And because now you're working out of two or three different systems, and if you have things written down in a spiral notebook, only one person has access to that. Okay, so if you're a pretty busy office with four admin team members at the front desk, and you have one spiral bound notebook for patients that want to come in sooner or patients that are unscheduled, then how do you do that? Do you pass it around the front desk? I don't know what you do. So that's probably one of the biggest inefficiencies I see. And kind of going along with that as well, even though there are some amazing third-party softwares out there for patient engagement and patient automation. Another inefficiency that I see offices doing is working out of two different platforms. So they have they have their Dentrix software or whatever practice management software you're using. You can generate every single list that you need to follow up with unscheduled patients or accounts receivable. Every list you need, you can run out of your practice management software. You don't have to leave your practice management software to run a list of unscheduled patients. But a lot of offices are using a third-party software for running a list, and that breaks the efficiency. So that's another thing that I see. Earlier, I talked about having this big whiteboard in the clinical room for tracking lab cases. Okay. You can track your lab cases in your practice management software so that everyone on the team has access to that list and they don't have to keep running back and forth to the clinic room and looking at the big whiteboard. And so those are some of the biggest inefficiencies that I see in the office is manual and paper systems. And the other inefficiencies that I see is with team training, onboarding new team members. And because you have new team members coming into your practice, and some of them may have never used your practice management software before. And so, or you may hire somebody that has a lot of experience, but they've never worked in your practice. So now you may have this outgoing team member who has 2 feet out the door and they're doing the training, and they don't have any kind of commitment or loyalty anymore to your practice because they're leaving. So now you have an incoming team member and there's no strategic training program for your practice, and it becomes very inefficient for the team to train, learn, because there's no systems and protocols in place. And so this incoming team member has no idea what the systems are, doesn't know how to use the software, and now they have to learn on their own. And that might be through reading articles or trying to learn on their own, and then it breaks the efficiency for getting them onboarded. So I see that like every single day.
Well, and so thank you, Dean. And there's the advice. So that probably exists in your practice at some level. It's question. This is a great opportunity. It's not about doing a slash and burn. The first thing is just have a look, do an inventory. Just what are the different things that are happening in your office? What are the different platforms that are in use? What is paper? What's not? And not about judging anybody or not criticizing. Just capture it all so you can have a look at the whole thing, and then you can make some decisions. And ultimately bring in the skill set you need to actually pull this all together.
Yeah, and I have an office up in the Seattle area, and they have Dentrix for their practice management software. They're using NextHealth for forms. They're using Modento for patient engagement, and then they have Weave for phones. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that has to be driving the team crazy with all like 4 platforms for managing patient care. And it's like we need to consolidate somewhere, because if the team is having to log in with a user ID and password into 4 different platforms all day long, it's overwhelming. And it's overwhelming, it's inefficient, it drives people crazy, and then it's not productive.
Right. I do want to, yeah, exactly. I mean, you mentioned the whiteboard. The whiteboard, what it is good for, you don't have to get rid of it. What it's really good for is actually celebrating the wins.
Yeah,
And that's where you do the wins. That's where you encourage people to write down a win that isn't just about what you did and how you do it, but about who you are and why you matter. And you use that as a connectable to the engagement and empowerment of your team.
yeah,
They're awesome for that.
yeah. I love
And
whiteboards. I
just let
love
them
them.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, whiteboards can
So
be great.
yeah. So for dentists looking to move toward a fee-for-service model, what software tools and automation strategies do you believe can support that transition?
Yeah, I think that you know, going out of network is always a strategical plan, right? You have to start from way before you even send the 30-day dismissal letter to the insurance companies. I mean, that plan starts way ahead of that because it's about informing your patients about what's coming and why are we doing this, because it's really important that we get ahead of that communication, because as soon as the insurance company gets wind that we're going out of network, then the insurance company is going to send a letter to all of your patients and say, hey, you need to go to an in-network provider. But if the office has gotten ahead of that communication, it can help that process a lot more. um, now now once the office is committed to going out of network, then what we have to do in the software is we have to dismantle the in network um, setup that's in your practice management software, because now we're going to estimate quite a bit differently. So, the strategic plan for going out of network, like I said, starts way before you even send the letter. But then once you do send the letter, now we have to start working on the setup, the systems. First it's all about communication with your patients, then it becomes the system for when are you now you're going out of network. Then are you going out of network and staying in assignment, or are you going out of network and out of assignment? So going out of assignment means that you're not going to receive any of the insurance checks or any of the insurance payments. So that's a completely different setup. And so it's important that the team knows exactly, okay, what is our setup going to be with this insurance company now? Are we out of network but still in assignment? That's one setup process. If you're out of network and out of assignment, then that's a different type of setup. So I think that's really important for the team to understand. A lot of times when I work with offices that are going out of network, they don't understand what's going to happen. And so it's really important that the doctor has the plan in place, or if you're working with a consultant that is helping you with this plan, that they know specifically what the plan is. And then a trainer like me can help you with the setup, and so that when we're now talking to patients about treatment and we're collecting on the day of service, is our software giving us accurate information? Is our software able to do the math correctly now that we're out of network? And so that's really important. How do we flag different patients that have maybe different scenarios? So that's really important, that once we know the details, that we get it set up correctly in the software.
Yeah, that would be, I can see that you said that out of the gate, communication. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just so, it's getting ahead of it isn't just about getting ahead of the decision making and the planning, it's actually the communicating, but then how you're going to do that to protect the integrity of the conversations, the confidentiality of things as they're transitioning, who's involved, and doing that. That's we were talking about change earlier, Dana, and people humans, we all go through change differently. But one thing we do know that 70% of change fails because of a lack of communication.
Mhm.
So, it's just about really being intentional. But to have somebody, what I heard you say was that you, it's like, it would be like if I was flying, the first time I'm flying a plane on my own after I've just been learning, and then I get to, but I'm going to have like I'm going to have a pilot that's got a ton of experience beside me.
Yeah.
And that, that just in case, you've got it, but that, but we're
Yeah.
just in case we're going to back this up. So just to what I heard you say is that, you need someone there who's seen this before, seen
Yeah.
those touch points, seen what can happen. And I assume that, and there's probably a culture clash that happens with those insurance companies who get very defensive and probably inward looking and trying to protect market share. So
Oh, 100%. I
it's
mean,
going to,
yeah, insurance companies are in the business of making money. They are not in the business of patient care. And, and so I've had more offices this year go out of network than I've ever seen before. And so, I'm doing a lot of hand holding.
I bet.
And, I have a lot of offices reaching out and just because first they're scared of the unknown because they really don't know what's going to happen. And then they get freaked out because the accounting and the ledger doesn't look right, and it's still estimating this old way. Oh my gosh, can you help me? So, there's once you get people through the transition, then they're fine. But it's that fear of the unknown, and then okay, now here's live day. Now what's it gonna look like? And it's just hopefully all the pieces that you've put in place, work out, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they need a little tweaking.
Well, and again, you say it's making a decision. Like often we think of, when we think of consultants, we tend to think of best practices and information. We think of coaches, we tend to think about curiosity and support. And I think what you're saying is really you're looking for a hybrid of that in this journey, because you're going to need to understand the systems. You're going to need to have someone who knows how to fly the plane, but you're also going to need somebody who's already seen what's going to happen with the relationships and what the impacts are going to be, so that you're not getting caught out of sorts,
Yeah.
and as we might say, blindsided, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So let's go and think about it, talk a bit about advice. So, for our listeners, what advice would you give to dental teams looking to maximize their existing software and systems to increase profitability and, of course, reduce reliance on insurance?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one of the most important things I think with like the systems and software is have a strategic training program in place. And when I say that, I mean your existing team doesn't have time to train a new person. And we have to remember that our brains, like we only retain about 30% of what we are taught. And and I know that's a sad number and I wish it was higher, but you have you have an outgoing team member, or you have a team member that's training someone new coming in, and they only know what they know, and they may have been trained by somebody else that only trained them what they know. And so I think having a strategic training program in place, and so that you can take the training and onboarding off the shoulders of your current team, because they are focused on patient care right now, and we really want to continue that. So I think that really helps an incoming team member, or maybe somebody that's being moved up into the admin space, really understand best practices and understands how to optimize the systems and software. I think that's probably first and foremost. Um, Becoming less dependence on insurance. I think the important thing about your software and your systems is that we have the software set up correctly for your current in or out of network status. Like, what are you with MetLife or with Delta or Aetna? Like, what is your status with this insurance company? And how should we have it set up correctly in the software? Because like I said, probably a couple times today, is your computers know how to do math. And so let the computer do the math for you. Let the computer generate a treatment estimate for you, because that helps your team be more efficient. And it helps you to understand how this insurance plan pays so that you can be a better advocate for your patients. So that, I think, is really important.
You've mentioned, thank you, Dana, the training, and I was thinking, we always, it's funny, I was thinking, just as you're talking, we always talk, I do a lot of work in that realm as well, and we have process where we do a whole bunch we onboard people with a lot of self-awareness tools, and really to help build self-help conflict management systems and stuff like that's my neighborhood is communication, conflict, and change. But what's interesting is that this idea of the training plan, we call it that, and it's a misnomer, really, isn't it? Because I mean, what it really is, if we think, because when it's a training plan, it's optional. We'll just do it by word of mouth. And I've seen word of mouth in a hotel I was working in, where they just word of mouth trained the next bartender, who then for the next 2 years overpoured a half ounce of liquor,
Oh,
and it cost over $1.5 million because there was no checks and balances.
yeah.
But what if we call it what if we call it a training, empowerment, retention, and success plan?
Yeah.
Because that's what it really is. I mean, your people are the sum of the organization's best parts, and the systems support them and help them be the best version they are, and collectively come together to work with the vision that's put before them and the mission that they're doing it within. So I think I think that's sometimes I hear we reinforce that. Like, what if training's not optional? What if
Yeah.
it's what's as important as insurance?
Yeah.
So, like insurance on your building, or life insurance, or business interruption insurance. So
I
just a
agree.
thought. I just throw
Yeah.
that out there.
I
But I
wish
think,
I wish that was the case for sure.
well, so we're just, our time is wrapping up, Dana. Is there
Okay.
any last thought you'd like to share with our listeners on today's topic, and kind of a inspirational thought, or
Well, I appreciate you having me on today. And I think it's, with training and optimizing your systems and software, it's all about giving your practice, your team, the why is change important. Why should we do it differently? And that's really where you want to start, is when people understand the why, they're on board, and now they want to learn, okay, I'm good with that. Like teach me more. Now they want more. Now they want knowledge, so feed me the knowledge that I need because I understand the why. Once they have the knowledge, then we really need to give them the recognition and test their knowledge, because people really want to know that they're doing a good job. You gave me all this knowledge. Now let me show you how good of a job I'm doing. So recognition, some kind of assessment or quiz or something like that needs to be in place so that we're able to give recognition to our team. And a lot of the systems that we work every single day are tied to practice numbers. And like, I love numbers. Numbers tell a story. So I think it's really important that you are sharing numbers and monitoring your KPIs with your team, because that is another way that you can celebrate with your team members. That's another way that you can see that your systems and your software is working the way that it should be.
beautiful. Thank you, Dana. I think when you said the why, I suddenly had this thought. I said, somebody said, well, why do you want to get married? Well, I love them. Well, is that it? Is there more to it? Is it just an emotional love bond connection? No, they care about me. They invest in me. They listen to my stories. They laugh at my corny jokes, whatever that is. But we have this first level of just that's very superficial. And really, what I'm hearing Dana say is just encouraging you to go deeper and really look at what that why is for your practice in all dimensions, not
Yeah.
just in all the KPIs that are both financial and systemic, as well as relational and people driven. So thank you so much, Dayna, for joining us today and sharing your invaluable insights on optimizing systems and software for a profitable practice. Your expertise and passion for innovation truly shine. No question you're passionate about it. And we're grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from you. How can people reach you, Dayna?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is you can go to my website, navoni.com. We have a contact us page there, and you can reach out to us that way. You can always email me as well, Dayna@navoni.com. That comes directly to my inbox.
And you're on LinkedIn as well?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's where I found you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Well, to all of our listeners, I hope we've encouraged and inspired you today. As we always say, this podcast is about being intentional, taking action, and I hope all of our listeners are making 2025 the year of action. The best part, there are simple steps you can take right now that won't cost you a thing. First of all, I mentioned to you at the outset that you could go ahead and set up that marketing strategy meeting with Equa. And as I mentioned before, you just can head over to lessinsuranceDependence, all one word, .com/marketing-strategy-meeting, and learn how to, as those folks in the marketing world talk about, learn how to replace Delta with organic SEO. If you have an idea of that, but not what it is, and that's where we probably need some support. But I can tell you from what I understand, it's a game changer for practice growth. Second, if you've found value in today's episode, please share this podcast with a colleague or a friend who could benefit from reducing their insurance dependence. The more we spread these insights, the more we can help fellow dentists take control of their practices. Thank you for the privilege of your time today. It's always an honor to be a part of your journey. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of the Less Insurance Dependent podcast. And on behalf of Dayna and myself, until then, keep moving forward and keep moving toward a thriving, independent practice. Thanks, Dayna.
Thank you.